All right, can we get started? If I could get everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to kick us off, that would be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just so you, everybody's aware, we did not have two board members that quit. We have one sick, Ken Horn, who's going to be on the Zoom listening in, and then Jeff Fuel had a work commitment tonight. So just the three of us tonight. A little bit of housekeeping. We are going to plan on 90 minutes as best we can. So there will be Q&A at the end so that we can get through each of the sections. And then hopefully if we're doing our job to get through the sections quickly without a bunch of people coming up back and forth to the podium, there'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So that's kind of our plan. The other piece is if you haven't been here before, if you have a question in the comments section in the Q&A section, there'll be a mic on each side. There's one and Lauren's got the other one. Please don't start talking until you have the mic, because the only way your voice will be picked up on the production that Rich is doing via Zoom is if you have a mic. So take the time, get the microphone for the Q&A portion. That will help a lot. And then when you do that also, please give us your name and lot number so that it's recorded in our records if we have to follow up with anybody. Okay. All right. So the only thing we are doing different tonight, this is a town hall. It's kind of designed to share key highlights and accomplishments from the year so that for those of you that aren't here all the time can get a feel for what's gotten done. And then Dave and I are going to spend some time at the end talking about the priorities for next year, well in advance of the annual meeting that takes place in April, so that particularly during the tougher economic times that we're in, folks have a much better handle on what we're going to be working on and why. And we can start the year with you guys already knowing what our plans for next year are. So that's kind of the format. The only thing we're going to go sideways on, just to keep the money flowing back to homeowners, Mr. Cross from Architecture is going to do the bond returns tonight first, like a traditional board meeting, and then we will then move into the actual town hall portion. Okay. Any questions on that before we get started? All right. We won't ask for questions again until the end. So please help us with that. All right. Tom, it's all yours.
Sure.
Thank you.
On the off guard.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
For those of you that I've not met before, I'm Tom Cross, 1573, 1574, representing architecture. It looks as if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bond returns. They have been previously approved through email, but I will read them off. Let me double check this. I'll preface by saying that in all 5 cases, we have no outstanding fees, fines, or dues owed to the POA. We'll start with lot number 1378. Address is 20373 Bow Vista. Michael and Tammy Jones are the residents. Bond amount $500. Lot 3312. Address 19342 Alpine Drive. Scott Midling and Stephanie Turk. Bond amount $500. Moving on, lot 1562, address 19378 Newcomb Knoll, owned by Sandra and Michael Berry. Bond amount $500. And lastly, we have, there are 2 more. Property address 20353 Mearsham. That's John and Mary Lindeman. Bond amount $500. And that was lot 1141. And finally, lot 2061, located at 1388 Brabenhurst, Brittany and Jason Hoffman, again, bond amount $500. That would complete them.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No? I'd like to go ahead and get a motion and we'll go ahead and vote. First.
I'll be the second.
Second. We won't have to fight over those tonight. That's the one and done. No. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Simple enough. Let's do this since we don't have a massive crowd and there are a lot of faces that are newer. Lauren, we're going to start with you. And we're just going to go down. Just please introduce yourself really quick and your lot number. For those of you that don't know each other, or we may not know you, that would be great.
I'm Lauren, and I'm 2103, lot number 2103. That's 1472 Robert.
And I'm Donna Yetzer, I'm on lot 939.
And I'm Jenny Cross, I'm 15, what?
73
73 and 4.
That's the same as I was at the podium.
Nice, nice. Please,
I'm Bill Ives, lot 2730.
Julie.
Julie Mason, lot 2224.
Sir,
Bob
please.
and Beck, Bob and Bonnie Mack. And
2098.
All right, beautiful.
what she said.
What she said. Smart husband, right?
Don Morris, 1379 and 80.
Okay, thanks.
Barb Mars, 79 and 80.
Howard Woodson, 1864.
Anna Studinsky, lot 1871.
Welcome. Whichever, and you want to start the next row, you guys make a cut.
Pat and Rick Paul, lot 130.
Great.
Lot 395.
Kathy. Robert, welcome.
Trying to think where, I'm really not sure. It's either 88, 89, 90, or 91.
Got it. Thank you. What was that? I missed that.
Mark Figler, and I live with her.
With her, okay, got it. That part we're sure of, right? All right.
Kieran Hatfield, 621. Linda Miller, 2177.
Mary Kane, 77. Jenny Dutton, 1854.
Laura Pruitt, 3009-3011.
John Bettman, 1854.
Welcome, John. Okay, is that everybody? Did I miss anybody? All right, let's go ahead and get cranking on the town hall. Donna is going to help us out tonight on the finance piece with Jeff and Kyle not available.
And Kyle.
Yep.
Kyle and Jeff cannot make it, so I'm going to tell you that our financial position for October 1st was $866,808. At the end of October, it was $695,428. That rolled over to November, and at the end of November, we ended up with $289,248. Just two notes that we have for the year. 2022 is tracking to be on budget for the income and expenses. And we need the approval of the October and November financials for both the POA and the golf course.
Want to do that now?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
any questions on those before we make a motion and vote?
No.
You're good? Okay, motion?
Yeah.
First,
I'll
second,
second it.
and all in favor of approving those?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I do want to mention, outlook going into next year, just because of the inflation pressures that everybody's feeling at home and we're feeling in the POA, we're going to go deeper next year on the financial reports. It may not be every single month, but at least quarterly, we'll do a deeper dive. We spent a lot of time with the budget categories, the line items. We know where the major expenses are going to be. We know where the concerns are with inflation pressure. You know, roads is a perfect example. Those costs just continue to go up. So look for more in-depth financial reporting next year, going into the year, starting in January. Hopefully that will keep everybody more informed. Okay, so I'm going to do the golf course update, and I'm going to get out of the way here just to make this easier. But want to highlight a few key points.
Microphone.
Yeah, let me just go here. I can see it from here. Is that good? Everybody can hear? Okay, all right, go ahead, Rich. So on the far left side, gives you kind of a 3-year trend line. And let me switch back because I actually can't see that very well. A 3-year trend line on our cash on hand. And what you'll notice, we're going into 2023 with a much lower cash position than we did prior. That's because of the golf cart paths being paid. And so you will not see major changes with new things at the golf course next year, at least in terms of infrastructure and heavy overhead cost. So they're going to need to build their funds back up to look at other things that they need for the future, like irrigation. My guess is the next major thing that they'll start to accrual for will be the irrigation needs of the future. But because have now moved to really funding what they need, how are they going to do that with major costs still coming up? If you look at the financial highlights on the right where it's bullet pointed, they are taking on a 15% members dues increase this year. And they're also taking on a $1 cart rental increase. That was all driven by the Board of Governors managing the future of the golf club. And they understand now that we've got a stable membership base at about 260-ish, we'd love to be at 280. And it kind of fluctuates back and forth. Their challenge is going to be, how do I retain the membership we have, which will obviously be listening and making improvements. And then how do we continue to grow that membership base and try to get it back to 280? Because we're certainly much more comfortable with that number than we are the 260, but the 260 keeps us profitable. A couple other smaller items that are going to be added next year in terms of the usage of the golf course, but the Karth Pass have made a huge difference. That was something we could do very quickly with the funds that had been accrued. So there's really good momentum. And the fact that the Board of Governors worked within our finance team to say we can handle that kind of member dues increase. It's all about the quality of the golf course, what else is available in the area, and they feel comfortable with the new membership levels that we'll see in 2023. Okay. And then you see a trend line also for the rounds that are played. It's a little bit hard to see. There's like a 500 increment difference between 21 and 22, but they're basically overlapping each other in terms of rounds played. So when we look at healthiness, we're looking at membership, how many rounds are played, because that helps to drive cart revenue. And can we keep up with the improvements that their members expect as they're paying more for their dues? So really, really solid story at the golf course. And long as the weather doesn't do us wrong next year, we expect an equally good year. If you could go to the next slide. This gives you a picture for those of you that have not seen the golf club update prior as it pertains to the path. They were in pretty bad shape. The majority of them have been repaved. Not all of them, because not all of them needed it. But that has been very, very well received. And then the last thing I want to highlight, anybody that's been around here for a long time knows the ups and downs of the golf course. And we feel like we've got great leadership there. We've got a team working together well. We've got a much better handle on the financials. A business plan has been written that we'll go into 2023. And when we talk about deeper financial updates, just because of the realities of the recession, we will also go deeper on a quarterly basis on the golf course to take you inside that business plan and show you how we're tracking against that plan. There's been a lot of years when people have said, is there a business plan? There was high level business plans. Some of the ideas were in people's heads, but it wasn't down on paper and truly running the business. And that's now how it's being run. So we're super excited as to where the golf course is headed long term. Okay, that is it. Mr. Wisman. All yours, sir.
Good evening. A short fiber optics update. The project appears to be about a third of the way complete as far as putting in the conduit line. Just over 20 miles of conduit has been pulled to this point. When the main line, it comes from State Road 1 up Georgetown to the substation, when that comes in, they will be able to actually run the fiber through those places that already have conduit. Their plan is to offer the service once that's done. So we will keep you updated when that happens. Once and they will be contacting people in those areas to let them know it's possible now to contract with them. I know a lot of people are getting notice from Comcast that we're getting that here at the POA as well, that they're wanting you to sign up for another 2-year service. I can't give you a definite date when your area will be online. I don't have that number. Moving forwards, again, I've reported several times that the contractors will continue to restore as they go, meaning that as they install sections, they'll restore before the basic restore before they move on to the next section. We've had several challenging restorations, And we continue to work with the contractor to resolve these individual situations. For the most part, I think most people haven't had these major issues at their place, but when there's a challenge, it seems to be a big deal. So Rich and I also met with representatives from NRTC. They're kind of the overall, there's a lot of alphabet soup here, but we have REMC involved, SEI data involved, and then NRTC is the engineering firm. They're the ones who actually let the contracts out to Fishel is one company, HUC is a company that they've worked with, and then Energy. There's another company, I forget what their name is, Hoosier or something. Anyway, those companies are, by contacting these reps individual, they are people who are actually on site that we can go to in case we need some emergency or at least some upfront assistance. So we've made contact with at least two of these people. They're kind of the foreman, for lack of a better term, but there's someone directly on site that we can go to and say, this is the problem we've got, show it to them, and actually get someone looking at the problem. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right. Well, yours, Pat.
All mine, everyone's favorite topic, the rules, also known as the bylaws. Earlier this year, Scott charged me with reviewing the bylaws and suggesting any recommended changes. I have decided on a process. I'm meeting with each of the committees. The initial meetings have already happened for future planning, judicial, and SS&E. Finance will happen tomorrow morning. And we are reviewing everything that is in our voluminous rules. Some things that will change. We have gotten the go-ahead that anything that is in those bylaws that is a restatement of a law from the state of Indiana or Dearborn County can be removed. Now, in the past, they've all been put there in an effort to just make things easy for residents. What has happened is residents are just overwhelmed by the bulk of the bylaws. So you are going to see their length cut down considerably when those laws are taken out. What will remain are those areas where we may have something that is a higher standard than the state of Indiana or Dearborn County has. We are also going to be taking assessments. In other words, what you have to pay if you run afoul of one rule or the other. We're going to be taking that from multiple sections, putting it in one as an appendix, so it's very easily accessed. The third thing is much of what is in those rules is a process. It's not a rule, but it tells you what we're going to do if you are in violation, the process we are going to follow. Some of those for legal reasons and enforcement reasons will have to stay in. Others will come out and will be on our website. So this is a work in progress. My goal is to finish it by the time I leave the board in April.
Can you add, we talked about an exec session, kind of what our process of approval is going to be, so everybody's kind of aware of what's coming next year?
Yes, the process is that I am meeting one-on-one with the chair of the various committees. It's much easier when you're looking at this bulk to just start with a couple people, and we are going through and we are working on suggested changes. The chairs then take that to their committee or panel membership. Once they have okayed it, it's going to go back to the board for the board to see side by side, how is this different? And once the board has weighed in, they will go to the attorney to be reviewed to make sure we're not leaving anything out and that we are in compliance with applicable laws in the state of Indiana around POAs.
All right, very good. David, you're back up. We're wearing David out today with a couple people gone.
The liaison, Jeff Fuel, wasn't able to make it tonight, and the chair was not able to make it for Lakes. So I was asked to report. Stationary sections of Willie's docks were replaced last year. Quotes were sought for the floating sections, and in the end, Lakes Committee decided to do the job internally for less money by using your POA member resources to help with reconstruction. And that work is ongoing. The floating docks have been moved over to the marina. They will be reworked to accept new floats and new concrete coverings as we have on our handicap dock. It'll be similar to that. The Lakes Committee wanted to thank the Crystal Lake neighbors who are taking an active role in lake ecology and management. We're beginning to see some improvements even without late season treatments. They're using simple solutions like removing invasive species, restoring shoreline plant buffers, educating on sources of phosphorus in the yard, reducing silt intrusion, and a floating plant island. This will be a case study for how we can better manage the other smaller lakes. They conducted the first spring lake cleanup with volunteers, removed a significant amount of debris, which was a big help to lakefront owners and safety issues. We will also likely do this again in 2023. There are areas that were hard to hit without having the service boat. We didn't have the maintenance boat available last year. It's been repaired and should be ready to go. The removal of slot bass continue to be a priority in the main lake. Fish and Game have removed around 1,000 each year for several years in a row. The electrofish study by Jones Fishery indicates that while we're doing the right thing with slot bass, we can go much further, maybe taking out as many as 4 times as many fish. There isn't enough prey in the lake to support a bass population with as many 9 to 13 inch fish. That's that slot that we're talking about as we have. So we will continue to work on solutions to balance the population. And you can see that on the website, POA website, for information from the November presentation with a question and answer session. Change was made to the rules to allow canopies on boat lifts. Several have taken advantage of that so far. Ken Horn, Eric Fox, and I went to see an eco harvester in action. This was on Indian Lake in Ohio. And we came away impressed, and we'll work within the board and finance to look at next steps. It's a significant expense, and we need to proceed carefully. We have worked on a governing document for how the Lakes Committee will operate. Everything from purpose of the committee to recruitment, term limits, and structure are addressed. And this should scale to other committees and was an important step before adding new members to Lakes Committee.
All right, thank you, sir. Doug. You've got SS&E first.
Awesome. So we do have some new faces. A lot of you know me. My name is Doug Gabbard. I'm the newest board member. What's my lot number? 218, I think. All right, so SS&E, I see Don's here. Bonnie's the chair right now. Do we have others represented? I think you're it.
I think so.
I think you're it. Thanks for coming. So they were introduced as a new board member to be on there. So thank you for being patient with me while I learn. So I got a long list of things that they accomplished or we're working on. So here's a short list. I really reduced it down a lot, Don. I just got one slide for you here. They submitted some changes for code of conduct for board members and some other processes. We have taken that in and we are consuming it, and we are likely to come up with something in January. That's our goal, to finalize that document for with the board. The code of conduct is for the board. They updated some election procedures. We had a couple issues last time, and so they have clarified some of those to make that a little bit simpler and easier so that we don't get into a pickle. We had some issues with animal control over the years. If anyone is around, you hear loud dog barking or dogs are loose. It's not rampant. It's not a big giant problem, but when they're next door to you, it's your problem and it's big. So one of the things they're trying to do to address that, they put a flyer into the new packet for, I know we had some new residents invited. We've got new residents here. Did they make it? No? Okay. But hey, there's in the welcome package is a flyer of, just good courtesy on how to handle your animals and what we can do for that. So that's in a welcome package. If you're familiar with Greendale, it's kind of like the landing zone for Halloween. Well, the pool area has become a landing zone in Hidden Valley at Halloween. And it was rather scary this year, not for Halloween purposes, but for safety of the people walking around in the dark, in dark costumes, golf carts flying around, cars trying to come through. So we did a very quick fix, or the SS&E did, of, hey, let's get some control up there. So you'll see more come next year to make sure that's even safer. It was kind of caught us off guard. It's like, hey, this is a problem. And it really blossomed this year. So that is what SS&E has done. So we can go to the next one. Am I still up?
Yeah, the only thing I want to add to what you said, you'd mentioned likely on the board code of conduct piece. I want to change that a little bit. It is done. We've spent a considerable amount of time on that. And so a lot of the topics that you've heard over the years about term limits and the other operating procedures that go on within the board, those have been completed. And we wanted to make sure we got that launched in and around when Eric does the same thing for the lakes, because what we felt is really important is for the board and the committees to understand each other better. Hey man, how are you? Just enjoy yourself. We're through lakes.
Oh, cool.
Have something to eat.
But you can't leave. Yeah, I'm teasing Eric. But we just wanted to work to make sure that the board and the committees were working closer together, working off similar strategies, understanding the budgets. And so there's much more document and process involvement that's going to take place. And as Doug had mentioned, Eric Fox and the Lakes Committee, along with Jeff, have taken the lead on doing that for what's really a complex and active committee to be able to share with the other committees, not to use verbatim as is, but to say, okay, this is how Lakes did it. And there's differences between committees, but when you decide you want to be on a committee, you'll better understand the expectations. You'll better understand how they operate. There's more thought going into how we recruit people to join the committees, because whether it's the committee or the board, we're only as good as a community as the people that are volunteering. And it became really, really obvious just to have more structure, made a lot more sense for everybody. So we're really proud that we'll be able to kick that off early next year and share all the details that starts with the board, moves to lakes, and then we'll push it down through the leadership council with the rest of the committees to do the same.
Exactly. And SS&E was right on board with it, with the suggestions for us. We adopted a lot of what they put in. So SS&E should be able to follow right along with that. So awesome. We'll go to the next slide for me, Rich, and we'll do future planning.
Yep.
So future planning, again, I got a long list and I whittled it down to a little bit if I keep my laptop awake. George Lortz is the lead. I don't see George or his wife here tonight. Who's here from future planning? Anybody? So I can say anything I want. Oh, no, though.
Rich.
Oh, Rich is there. Rich is definitely here. All right. So actually, that's the first bullet. So we went through a learning experience at the beginning of the year when we had some hiccups with the register publishing our echoes. And boy, that was an interesting time. But thanks to Rich and the committee, it is still free to us and is accessible. It's just not getting mailed out right now. So you can pick it up at Willie's, the ball fields, the pool. I think there's still one at the pool. I'm not sure if it stays there in the winter, but there are a couple stations to pick that up from. So that was an excellent accomplishment. They took care of the front security. That's the first thing people see when they drive in our Hidden Valley. If they're not from here, they're not going to find the back gates. They're going to drive through the front. So they beautified that. They cleaned it up a lot. They painted it, did a lot of maintenance things that were safety issues that were taken care of. We also painted the 77-acre snack building, which is over that direction. We also added texting. If you're not signed up for texting to get alerts of what's going on in the neighborhood, I highly recommend you go to the website. It's right on the front page. Click on it, sign up, and you get text notifications. We don't badger you with texts every day. It's just when something's coming up, something that you need to know about. A road's closed, something's going on. It's just good information to be involved with. They've also worked on the website. That's a challenge all the time. Websites are not cheap, so we're trying to do it under budget. It's a constant work in progress. We moved from one provider to the other. That was a very good challenge. Was that last year, Rich, that we did that, or was that this year? Hey, Rich, was that last year we did it, or was that this year that we switched? It was this year. That was very cumbersome. I was involved with it quite a bit before I got on the board. I was actually managing a lot of the website, but I work full time and can't do that because it's near a full time job. But that has been a great challenge, and you can applaud them for that success on that. So do you want to add anything else to that, or?
Yeah, just the work that you did with Rich on the website is how you wound up there.
Yeah, yeah. Watch out what you do.
It's like,
So
this guy's pretty good. We should get him to get involved in the board someday. There he is. So thanks, Doug, for
all
that.
right, yeah, and I am going to be their liaison as well. If I can convince them to move their time in the meeting, but we'll work on that, Rich. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. Pat,
All
to
right.
you.
What,
50th anniversary.
what Doug was too kind and didn't say is the reason he lost all his bullet points is because I shoehorned in all mine for the 50th anniversary task force. It was my pleasure to lead a group of volunteers here in the valley to mark our community's 50th. Ginny Boyer and Rich Gannon, Dee Hacker. Make sure I don't forget anybody here. George and Becky Lords, Diane Myers, Pat Paul, Jan Rowling, Steve Serveld, and Al Thorup were all invaluable parts. Now, those of you who have been here for a long time know that back for our 40th anniversary, then resident Roger Kipp planned a really excellent weekend. Now, one of the things we decided before we started is that we just didn't want this to be a one-off weekend. 50 is a huge milestone. We wanted to celebrate it throughout the entire year. And to that end, we started in the fall of 2021 with a logo contest. Residents picked the logo in December. We held a gathering for residents who have been here 30 plus years, offering hospitality and a chance to exchange memories. New Year's Day, we unfurled the official banner at the Polar Bear Dip. And later that cold month, we placed anniversary flags and banners at multiple locations in Hidden Valley. Next one, Rich. In March, we received a proclamation from the Dearborn County Commissioners recognizing our anniversary. We also staged a pub crawl with Civic. Full disclosure, we provided the money for the pub crawl. They did all the heavy lifting. They did the planning, got the bus to go between venues. It was a wonderful event attended by hundreds of residents. We provided patches for the riders for the Memorial Day Parade. We underwrote the cost of ice and other refreshments for the family pool party in June. We provided funds for the anniversary specific fireworks. It was a case of blink and you miss it, but there was a 50 there. I did not see it, but I saw photographic proof of it. So we authorized the payment of that invoice because until I saw that picture, I was pretty suspicious. Okay. The Labor Day Bash. We put together a time capsule. If you haven't been over to the 77-acre park, it is buried by the entrance sign and its burial site is marked with a sundial. We provided the flags for the 50 boat tie-up, worked with the Civic Club on the Christmas tree lighting event. I hesitate to bring that up because as of right now, the tree is not lit. It managed to stay lit for what, 6 days? So we're gonna have to figure out what is going on over there. And throughout the year, we provided articles on Hidden Valley Lake's history and residents for Echoes and the Dearborn County Register. What we did with this, with our budget, is we tried to spend money on the here and now, just social events where people could come together, and also things of a more permanent nature, like the non-functioning lights for the Christmas tree, the lights in the gazebo that are probably blinking as we speak, and some other things throughout the valley. So anyway, it's been fun. I hope you got to attend some of the events. Our work is officially done.
I just want to add to that. It kind of struck me just now listening to Pat going through that, even though we saw the slides, is there's a long list of people involved that are already on committees and doing lots of work. And so when I look at those 3 pages and all that went into it, that's in addition to what they were already doing to celebrate the 50th. So I think everybody that touched it, whether it's big or small, deserves an applause. So for a lot of people that aren't here, let's give them an applause.
All right.
Privately in the executive session where all the secret stuff happens, Pat said she's not doing another 50 years. So
Nope, I'm not.
if you have not heard that,
My expiration date is long before
she
50 years.
she is going out strong. Okay, thank you so much. That was awesome. All right, so Ken is not here on architecture. Tom, I'm gonna ask you, even though you haven't seen this slide, it's gonna be really easy to read and you're the closest to this. I was gonna read it, but with you being here front and center, it's very process oriented, but you can see the quantitative work that you do. Could you just share the fact that, first of all, your group meets twice a month with a ton of work. You have to take care of all those folks through the process, but just highlight with these 5 bullet points, all the work that you guys got done this year. It's amazing.
Sure. We had a busy year. Quite a few permits were submitted. Tons of activity as far as projects in the valley were permitted and completed. We did have, as the slide shows, 212 permit approvals. We had 103 of those were administrative approvals. Now, for those of you that might not know what that is, that's a permit for some sort of project, perhaps a replacement in kind of a retaining wall or the resurfacing of a deck, things that don't necessarily have to come across the committee's table for discussion. So 103 of those were approved by administrative approval. 109 of the 212 did come across the architecture committee desk. They were approved. We had 3 new home builds. We have one going on now that you can see as you're exiting the valley. There's a log home being constructed down there at Lakeview and Alpine. Yeah, it's a nice looking home. Water view, by the way.
Lake from there?
I was thinking of the retention pond.
Oh.
And we had,
Tom, you're normally not this funny.
I'm
This
sorry.
is awesome.
and we did have 2 variances that were granted.
Touche.
As I said, it was a busy year, a lot of fun. There are some great people on that committee, and we do our best to wade through those permits.
One of the things I want to highlight too is that a lot of that work goes unnoticed if you're not involved in it, but it's kind of a thankless job and they grind it out, but the workload's not going away. If you pay attention to the tear downs going on in the community and the remodels, it's not like we're fully built out and you guys can go off in the sunset and never have another approval. It's going to continue. We constantly evaluate how do we keep up that and do it better. But the other thing that goes with that is all the rule revisions that we're looking at. A lot of those sit with Tom's group. And so as we think about, if you were going to start the community brand new starting on Monday, do all the rules on how you build here and how you remodel and what you add, are they still appropriate for the next 20, 30 years? Like everybody would agree, a lot of them are appropriate. Some of the things might be outdated. And so these guys are taking the time to take a look at, okay, let's just don't assume that it still all makes sense and is appropriate. What about the next 20, 30 years as you build a home? Should it be under the same constraints that you've had before? Should there be more? Should there be less? So tons of work that goes unnoticed. So thank you for everybody.
One more thing I'll add there. Just a total, we now have, I believe by last count, 1,895 homes here in the valley.
Just pull that out of your pocket.
Yeah, have it written down.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the slide too. Tom.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just helping them out. Okay.
Oh, it was, excuse me. I didn't
Yeah,
read it.
it's okay. You got
Can't
it.
have my glasses.
It's okay. Thank you for that. All right, we're heading back to Pat for an update from Parks on their accomplishments, and there are many.
Yeah, you could stop with me again, and Horn is on the disabled list tonight. But it's my pleasure to report on all the good work that the folks do on our Parks and Recreation Committee. Trails were a big part of their work this year, and thank you to John Getzendanner for his leadership. They cleared and reestablished trails on the west side of the complex, created the Wood Duck Trail, cleared the southern entry to the Bluebird Trail, added bridge to the southern entrance to the new Wood Duck Trail, new master display case with trail maps and a QR code to use with your smartphones, and the campsite was cleared and completed. Next, Rich. We are thrilled to have Nora Humphrey as our new pool manager. And after the close of the swim season, we started the work on putting in a new pool liner. Some highlights at the pool and beach were the first annual family pool party, and the 50th anniversary was happy to be part of that. The doggy dip, since it didn't matter how we damaged the pool liner since it was going away, after the pool closed to the human swimmers, we opened it to the pooches. And if you weren't there, it was just a sight to behold to see unbridled joy as those dogs just dove right on in. And I'm happy to report that the proceeds went to a cause near and dear to my heart, PAWS. The pool season was extended through September. We were able to staff and the weather was favorable. And the spring cleanup and organization of both pool and beach houses was completed. And there were a few minor repairs that were done. Amy and her folks and other volunteers not affiliated with the committee worked very hard on the state line cleanup. I can tell you, being how I go down state line all the time, it is a thankless job. For a precious moment in time, it will be pristine, but before too terribly long, it's going to be cluttered with litter again. But they facilitated that one brief shining moment earlier this year when it looked good. Thank you.
All right, we have one more section before we open it up to Q&A. I just want to ask real quick, does anybody need to use the restroom, want to grab some more snacks before we get started? You want us to keep rolling? Because we're a little bit ahead of schedule on our end. We've got plenty of time for Q&A, so we'll keep moving unless you want to. Okay, but feel free to break away when we get into Q&A, and if you need to use the restroom and grab more food, please do so. So we're going to finish up, and I just want to say up front, Dave's going to cover the outlook for 23, and it's not a full extensive list of 30 things going on, but it's the things that he talks about with his staff, that we talk about with the committees, that we talk about as a board. Like, what are we really looking at next year, particularly as it pertains to cost and managing against our budget, and as it pertains to maintaining employees that have their own pressures at home. We've talked early in the year about how we were trying to support them with benefits for next year. And it's just a challenge. And so I think Dave's done a tremendous job kind of capturing the thoughts of all of us and all the things we've heard, and is going to kind of highlight the 4 or 5 key areas that are going to really bring the majority of our focus. So when you think about, what are we going to be working on next year? All this stuff's going to continue. There's a lot. Hopefully you guys feel great the way the volunteer community serves our community. It would cost us a fortune if we weren't volunteer based, and it's money we don't have. I think sometimes we forget that. I've run some numbers before. I won't share them, but it's a big number, and nobody would be happy with the dues increase. So thank you for all the volunteers on the community side that we don't even see sometimes, those that are on committees, those that are on task force. None of that work goes unnoticed. So Dave, if you would bring us home and kind of highlight where we're headed next year. And I also want to thank Dave. I don't think anybody understands how hard he works. He's accessible 24/7. He's got a lot on his plate. We constantly think about how we simplify his life, and all we do is make it more complicated. So that's one of the things on our goals for next year is how do we simplify it so we don't kill him? Because we love having him here.
Well, thank you.
Seriousness. Thank you, David.
So first off, the budget. We want to continue to improve managing the budget. It's important that we're as clear as possible with identifying those areas where we can spend wisely so we can provide a positive experience for the property owner while still spending conservatively. You have a great history here of conservation, of saving money, but also providing a quality experience. And that's what we're trying to continue here. We definitely have challenging times ahead, depending on how the inflation and all those kinds of things that we're dealing with. Those are all, still kind of swirling around. We really don't know kind of how those are going to impact us, but especially in human resources. This has been one challenging time period for getting people getting people to work with us. It's not just us, it's everybody's coming in through the same thing. So we have a great team. We want to continue to keep those people, and we have to be creative in providing a good work environment while understanding that we have limits on our budget. We can't keep up with, say, Lawrenceburg City or the state of Indiana, places like that. So, but we want to do what we can to keep these employees here. Employees seem to be pretty happy with their jobs. We want to keep it that way. We implemented project charters when I first came on, and what those do is they lay out any kind of project that we're doing. These docs that we're working on right now, that's all laid out in a charter that spells out when you do what, how much money it's going to cost. We try to keep things within that budget. It's not always possible. Sometimes we come in under, but by having a project charter, it kind of keeps us on task and on budget. So these project charters are part of a system that help us define what is needed financially and physically to complete a project. We also have been working on asset management. We have a lot of assets here. We have buildings, we have equipment, we have vehicles, things like that. So we're working on managing these assets, and this part of the management of getting all this information together, things like culvert pipes. We have hundreds of culvert pipes that go across the street. Those are part of our assets. They last so long, and we have to replace them, and they cost so much money. So it's very tedious work, very time consuming, but we have to have it done so that we can have a handle on what we own, what we need, and when we need to maintain these items and when we need to replace them. We've also been working on roads. We have a roads task force. This roads task force convenes in the spring, and we look at the projected roads that we would be normally doing under the schedule that we kind of inherited. And we take a deep dive and see what needs to be done this year with the funding that we have available. You have 32 miles of road here. I have friends, my son's actually the city manager in Aurora, and I have friends that have been city managers and mayors in different towns. They have 3 to 5 miles of road that they're responsible for a city. You have 32 miles. It's a lot to keep up with. And what we're working on right now, Alpine, is a major road. It's a great expense. So these are things and that's why I asked for this road task force. I wanted to have people on there that we could bounce ideas off of, try to do the most we can with the money that we have budgeted, and try to give the board a good, honest appraisal of what we've got and how we can do better with the roads that we have. I think the roads are in pretty good overall shape. We do have some work to do, but I'm just amazed that you've been able to keep them maintained to the level they are with the funding that's there. So we'll keep on working on the road system. So that's all I have.
I just got caught with a wing.
Catch it when you got a bite in. I waited for that.
I didn't think you would go that fast.
Well, while he finishes up, since she brought up Paul's earlier, if you like Paul's there going pet photos with Santa this weekend on Saturday. I'm the photographer of that, so it's free.
So I was talking about volunteer time, and we'll start. Yeah, I just want to give you one little nugget, and then we're going to open up to Q&A. And keep in mind, if you want to go back way to the beginning of any slides, we're happy to go back if you want to refer to any pieces that we talked about. There's only an ad hoc, but I just did a quick calculation. If we have 75 volunteers, and I know we have way more than that, and they put in 5 hours a week, some do way more than that, some do less, but on average 5 hours a week, I do that like a day. And we paid them $15 an hour without benefits. And let's say we gave them 2 weeks off a year, just to be nice. So they work 50 weeks, and it's all fictitious numbers. It's $281,000. And so you can play around with any numbers that you want, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that get saved. And when you start talking about how much the dues would have to go up to cover that, nobody would be happy. So I think we take it for granted, and probably through the Christmas time here before we get into Q&A, to Christmas and the holidays, take time to thank a volunteer. Many of you are that. So thank yourself or thank your husband or wife or whatever, but it's unbelievable the amount of work that gets done that we take for granted. And that's kind of who Hidden Valley is. So thank you, and please spread the news. So with that, we'd like to go ahead and open up. We got 2 mics on each side. Please don't get started without a mic. We've got up until 8:30 to go back through any questions you may have, and we'll just plug away one at a time. We wanted to try to have as much time for Q&A about this year and the future as we can. Who'd like to go first?
I just have a quick question for Dave. He's not here. Sorry.
He's right there. He's just hiding.
Okay. About the roads, while we're still kind of fresh on the roads, I was curious if there was a schedule for line painting. I noticed particularly in the winter time when it's dark, it's hard to get around without lines on roads. And I was curious if we were gonna do that. Just-
Yeah, I have to work on that with the maintenance crew. They've been kind of on some other issues, and we've waited, we had to wait until they're done, obviously, with that work. And then it's a weather issue. We can't do it. So that's part of the idea, especially this area down along the dam. That's one of the worst areas. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Mack, and I'm at 2098. And I understand that there have been some changes in our exercise program. And I would like to petition the board that they delay the implementation of these changes until the end of first quarter 2023, so that the participants can come together and may offer maybe better alternatives to some of these changes.
Okay, can you give me some examples of some of the, let me do this, because I know there's a lot of people here in the fitness club, and if we didn't have that topic, we would have way too much food. Let me tell you where we're at, because there's a lot of miscommunication. So let me tell you where we're at. The only thing that we were trying to accomplish going into 2023, and it gets involved with workloads and how money's flowing and all that kind of stuff, is we wanted to put in the hands of the fitness instructors, management of the people that are in the class and collecting dollars. That was the objective. How much that was undetermined, but that was the basic concept, because we've received feedback, and there's tons of really good ideas that we've talked through, and Dave can go into great detail, but I want to give you a summary. Should we be accruing for future improvements in the fitness center? Absolutely. That's a part of the financials. We put together a P&L so that when we talk about things like this, you can see exactly where we're at, and there's no confusion. So that was the only intent. Where we're at today is we're in no hurry to start on January 1st. For the reasons you just stated, we're going to get it right. We think it still makes sense to look tighter at the fitness center, because we haven't done, and I think all of our opinions, a good enough job keeping up with improvements. We need to think about, like, okay, when are we going to have to replace weight equipment again? When are we going to have to replace bikes? What do we need to add? What do we need to delete? Everything else is kind of on an escrow plan. And for whatever reason, right or wrong, the fitness club hasn't really been there. So we simply want to tighten that up. The decisions that we have made based on the feedback is that we're not going to ask the fitness instructors to collect dollars, but we are going to look at, like, what does it really take for the classes? How many classes, how many hours, how many dollars for the year? We're glad to make those payments, but at the same time, we don't want to have a fitness class that we're paying instructors for that's not being used. And so there are some of those, there's some that are full, that's great, but we just want to have a plan for the fitness center like we have everything else now, because it's been a little bit looser run, and we're trying to help Dave's staff out at the same time. So that's where we're at. And so if there are any more questions tonight on the fitness club, please make them around what are your recommendations on where we are today and what you'd like to see change so that we can incorporate that. But we will take the time in December and or January when we're ready with a plan. But this idea that we wanted to get rid of fitness classes, it's crazy. I talked to 2 of the fitness instructors myself and listened to what they had totally different things to say. And there's what, four of you in total? There's different stories coming in. Dave and I'm like, well, how did we get to the point of it's this disjointed? It doesn't need to be this complicated. And when it gets this complicated, it makes us look at, you know, how do we build the plans? How do we communicate? How do we get the feedback? Everybody's got a different story. I know Dave has spent an enormous amount of time with his finance team looking at this, also meeting with people that use the club, use the fitness classes, people that have wanted to double the cost to make sure we're covered. And we sit there and go, okay, so what if you just do fitness class and you don't use the rest of the club, or vice versa, or both? Like, everybody wants different things. And we had somebody literally say to us, and I'm going to stop here in a second, well, just raise the cost for everybody. Okay, so then how do we explain to somebody that doesn't use the equipment? So what we're trying to understand is, like, how is it being used and what should the fee be? We realize everybody can go down to Platinum Fitness, but doesn't want to do that. We don't want to get out of whack with what we're charging. We want it to be a convenience. How profitable does it need to be or not be? That's why we put together the P&L that we're reviewing. But I would like to keep the conversation to what do you want to see improved? Because that's what it's about. It's not about taking anything away. So for any of you that have been involved in that, I'm sorry, but we've wasted a lot of time with bad PR around the fitness center, and all we're trying to do is make it better. It's the reason we're replacing equipment and relook at it. How do we take care of the fitness classes?
I can give a question.
Okay.
Linda Miller, 2970. We heard that anybody can come in here and take the class. Like, they don't live here. Well, why is that okay?
I don't know if it is.
Well, it's,
Actually, that's not okay. If it's our fitness center where we got memberships internally, you can't bring
Right.
someone in
Okay.
because we don't have liability for them. I think we'd allowed external when the COVID hit. I think Jenny was doing classes outside, and that was not part of the fitness center. You showed up, you paid Jenny, and you went away. And we had to sign, and because I went to those, so you signed forms for her for that liability. But
Hey, guys, hold on, please.
But those
While
were,
he's talking, can you give him the courtesy of letting him talk?
yeah, but those
Thank you.
weren't sponsored by the fitness center. Those were Jenny's solo classes. But if it's in here, it's sponsored by the fitness center, then it has to be HOA members only, or POA members thing. Yeah.
A question too. Okay, I'm Laura Pruitt and I would be one of those fitness instructors. I was on the original committee way back when this fitness center was established. I don't know, 20 some years ago. I don't know. But when it was established, we all at the time said, if this fitness center could break even, that would be really awesome. I believe we've found that it has broken even. It's actually made money every year. I've been an instructor since it started, whenever that was. It's been a long time. But we are just wanting to make sure that all of the people who take the fitness classes can continue taking fitness classes and that it be affordable to them. Just like the people who come to the fitness center and use the equipment can continue using the equipment, and it can be affordable for them as well. And as we all know, if you have 300 members of a center, typically about 30% of those people actually really use everything and everyone else pays for it, which that's fine, because if everybody used everything, we wouldn't have the room in this class nor upstairs for everyone to use everything. This room right here was never designed for a fitness class. These floors are not designed for people to be jumping, for people to do anything high impact. People who do high impact will suffer down the road. But we've been able to do a lot of these classes and compromise and do our own classes. But my point is, we want to make sure that everybody can still use everything. If they don't use everything, that's their choice. But we shouldn't penalize the people who do use the fitness center or do use the classes and say, well, those people don't use it, so they shouldn't have to pay for it. Okay, because if everybody used everything that they paid for the fitness classes or the center, we wouldn't have room for either one of them. So, just keep that in mind.
So Laura, that's a lot to unpack. Let me try to unpack it. I heard
Okay.
affordable. I heard maybe not a lot of scrutiny on what you use. Like you pay your membership, whatever it is, and you choose what
There's
you
a lot
use.
of people who pay memberships to fitness centers.
Right.
Who walk in the door once or twice.
I get it. Yep.
And then they never come back.
Right.
And that's okay.
Okay.
Because if every single person who paid for the membership of these centers actually used them 3 or 4 times a week, we wouldn't have the room upstairs in the fitness room. We wouldn't have the room in the weight room.
Right.
We wouldn't have the room down here. So please do not penalize the people who are using everything.
And how would we do that? That's what I'm trying to
People can
understand.
still pay the fees. We're making plenty of money.
How do
We're
you know-
making what, $7,000 a year, $8,000 a year? And we've been making that for several years.
Okay, so help me so I'm just gonna ask questions because this is
Okay.
questions we're having. Should the fitness center be break even?
Well, we are breaking
Bear with
even.
me. Should it be a break even goal or should it be charged with a profit? Should it be
It should
run
be
like
a break even
business?
goal for sure. And we're well doing that.
You're not answering my question. My question is the objective that it should just break even? If we break even, doesn't matter whether we make 1,000 or 7, or should we set a goal that we run it like a business and we say, we want to make $10,000 a year in the fitness center?
No, we should not make it as a goal to make
Why- why not?
$10,000 a year
Why
for the
not?
fitness
So
center.
what do you do? Like,
Yeah, why not?
we just laid out 55,000 for new equipment. How do you pay for that?
Because we've had
Yeah.
the fitness center open for how many years? And nothing, we've bought maybe a couple new
Yeah.
treadmills and.
Oh, I agree, but I don't think we've been in. the
There's
positive.
not been a lot bought since the fitness center was open. There's
Right.
been a couple treadmills, there's been a couple ellipticals.
Yeah, but you still have,
Nothing
when you
in the
decide to
weight
pay
room.
for it though, Lord, you still got to pay for it, so if we're $7,000 profitable this year, and maybe we were last year, I need to go back further and see if we're always profitable, if we're profitable one year and then not the next. And that's what Scott's getting after is breaking even is great, but you need to have a little bit of a cushion to create an escrow, because we got a 7-year expected lifetime on the yeah, that's where.
Guys, we're not, hey, just so we don't get all fired up, we're not fighting.
Yeah, I'm with you on
We're
this.
like, we've already had a lot of conversations. We're asking questions we've asked of ourselves. But if we're listening, if we answer the question, just answer it for us and see if we're aligned or not, and we'll move on. Break even is having money to pay for stuff. Is that what you're saying? All right.
I
Please.
just want to say that every year when I get my dues bill, I have to pay for the golf course, and I don't play golf.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, maybe you could take a little of that money and put it into this, or charge $5 for the fitness center on everybody's bill. Because everybody complains about the golf course, so they might complain about the fitness center.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, ma'am, the assessment is on your bill because the community voted overwhelmingly to purchase the golf course. At the end of a 15-year period, that golf club note will be paid, the mortgage will be paid off, and that will go away. But we made very clear, our commitment to the community was that that money would pay for the mortgage, and anything that was left over would go to the golf club for improvements, because we bought it in something of a sorry state, and we knew that going in, and the price we offered reflected that. We closed on that in January of 2015.
So, question.
Can we grab the mic, please, John? He's got it. Okay, thanks. Got it. Got it. Thank
So
you,
the
John.
fitness center has operated in the black for at least the last 6 years. And so are the fitness instructors pay, is that going to be included in the budget for 2023?
The payment to the instructors right now.
Yes, the same as what it has been in the past. Is the instructor pay going to be included in the budget? Because it has operated in the black, including paying the instructors.
Yeah, the direction right now is yes. They will be paid.
So that story that was out there that the instructor pay had been cut out of the 2023 budget is
Yeah,
not
that's-
true.
That's what I said up front, John. This
No, that's
story-
not exactly what you said.
Okay, thanks.
You danced around.
Okay, John, I'm gonna tell you right now.
If it's in the
John.
budget, end of story.
John, I'm gonna say right now, okay, because we got a bit of a history. I said up front that I wanted to clarify what the intent was. I said that up front. Okay? And we're not gonna challenge back and forth. And if you want to challenge, then we'll eliminate you from this
It
conversation
goes
because I'm
back
not
to
doing this.
your conduct,
What?
your conduct.
No, I'm just saying, we're not gonna argue. All
If
right,
the
so my
instructor pay
question
is included, then we're good.
Bear with me. So my question, do we know emphatically the profitability or not profitability for the last 6 to 10 years?
I do.
Okay, okay.
You can go see it on the website.
Any other questions?
Okay, Tom Cross, 1573 and 4. I'm just a little confused and I'm sure you'll clear it up for me.
Sure.
We're talking about the fitness center running at a profit. Would we not consider the fitness center to be one of our amenities here? The pool,
Sure,
the tennis courts,
sure.
the pickleball courts? Are we trying to run those as a profit?
The answer to that question is that you have a list of amenities you're trying to keep. You're trying to keep open and running effectively, okay? So when you review something like we've done, and we've been reviewing everything, including the pool, including all of the amenities, including the costs of chemicals going to, like, everything's been reviewed. And every single committee chair that's sitting in this room should know that, right? Because we brought you guys into the process. Does the golf course need to be profitable? Why?
Same reason that this has to be remaining.
What's that? What's this?
Well, I wanted to get money to fix the curb cap.
Okay.
And unless that is paid, it's not going to be a good golf course.
Okay.
And the same thing holds, I think, for the center and the people who are teaching. If they're not paid, then everybody will disappear from here and you'll be losing money. You said we were going to stop at a certain point, and when you said that was not true, that the instructors would be paid, I'm out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, yes, the fitness center, the golf course, all those things are amenities. Where the golf course and the fitness center differ is that they are membership based so that they could pay for themselves. So the idea, and I think what we're getting caught up in the lingo here, is profit versus being self-sustaining. So break even is not the same as self-sustaining. To me, there's money that comes in at the end of this that we use to feed back into replenishing the resource. Not that we're trying to make money and put that in the bank and use it for something else. It should be self-sustaining.
Yeah. And Eric, if I can add something to what you said, and going back to a comment Laura made earlier, it is not really an amenity in the sense that it really isn't open to everyone in this community because it doesn't have the physical space to accommodate everyone in this community. So that's where it's a little different than other things here, like the pool and the walking trails. We look for it to come as close to break even as possible. In other words, the income that the relatively small number of residents pay into that pays for its day-to-day operating expenses, as well as puts money aside for eventual equipment replacement.
Phil Heights, lot 2730. I don't think there's much of a parallel really between the golf course and the fitness center. And the reason is, and I think why we all pay for the golf course, that mortgage on it basically, is I remember the debates very well at the time we were talking about it. And the reason it won so overwhelmingly is if we didn't buy that, we would have lost control of that area. And we would have no choice as to what went in there. It could have been thousands of cheap apartments, and those people would have access to this community because of other legal aspects of the issue. And so to maintain our own personal property values, we overwhelmingly chose to take on that financial burden. And besides that, it will be a profit maker in the long run.
Any other questions?
Pat Paul, 130. We were talking about whether or not it was an amenity. And I think the amenity aspect comes in terms of just being available to us.
Yes,
And so having it available is actually an amenity.
correct, correct. It's a convenience to residents.
Correct.
You get a fraction of the equipment you would at Planet Fitness, but it's in your backyard as versus
Exactly.
driving down to
Exactly.
Lawrenceburg. Right.
Bonnie Mac, 2098 still. Pat, you nailed it. You're right.
I did.
Yes, you did.
Mark that down.
We
Scott.
don't, we cannot get enough people to fit into this
No. you can't.
space, to make a profit or maybe even to break even. So you're right, that money does have to come from someplace. And there's not enough of us to support it. So therefore, it should be an amenity, as Pat said.
Mhm.
And that, I know you want that money to come. We are making money? Then why are we even having this discussion? then? We should just be paying and continuing on.
You just nailed it.
Maybe, that would be nice. So then the meeting's over and we're done. We're
Okay.
gonna continue on
Ready to adjourn?
as we are. Is that right?
So here's what I want to ask folks to do. There is nobody that has spent more time on the fitness center than Dave and Marla. And if you have, please, I apologize. But there's all this uproar, and you guys started off by saying, well, we heard. You know how many people have actually reached out to Dave to understand what was going on? No, I understand examples of things that go on. I met with one of the fitness instructors 2 years ago, one-on-one, because there were a lot of complaints on what we should be doing better. There's not enough room. There's not enough equipment. We need stuff for the pool, like all legitimate stuff. My question is, nobody's brought up, is the fitness center adequate in the years moving forward? And I asked this individual who's super high charged, very involved, do us a favor. Like, because we don't know all this stuff. Like, the fitness center is not the only thing that keeps us up at night. It does tonight, but it didn't prior. Is give us a plan. Like, tell us what your ideas are. And I threw a whole list of ideas out there. I said, okay, this is not perfect, but during the heavy fitness class time, whatever that is, and I don't know what that is, because if you look at me, you'll know that I'm not at those classes. Okay. But I said, what about a permanent tent for 6 months out of the year so we can do more activity and fitness classes that doesn't have a hard surface? I threw 5 ideas out that I have no idea if they're valid, but my point is nothing came back. Nothing came back. So I'm not going to mention name, but what I'm saying is if it's, excuse me, John, what, you have a comment? Okay. Help us get involved. Like, Dave's got
One person. 2 years ago.
John, would you take the mic if you're going to speak, please, and introduce
Say you
yourself?
you want input, but you say you talked to one person 2 years ago. Where's that input been from people since then?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. Like, if there's things that we need to do better, we got to work on that stuff along the way and not have it turn into these kinds of meetings where folks kind of, you guys know, you kind of came in or a little puffed up saying, oh God, these guys are screwing the fitness center. That's not what we were trying to do. And I'm going to say that one last time. And if you want to be involved and you want to think about the future, we don't have enough room to serve this community the right way? Should we be building for the future?
Scott, that's a very good point.
I don't know the
What-
answer. I'm just asking the question.
What triggered this off, again, I'm Rick Paul 130, was a note that Dave Wisman sent out that said, we will not pay our instructors starting January the 1st. And nobody talked to the members, as far as I can tell. And that's what triggered it. And that's why everybody's here.
And also, and Dave, you can attest to this, you talked to all three instructors. We were specifically told, I will talk to you individually, but don't say anything to the members because I want to send an email out to them. That's what we were told by you. So I did not say anything to the members at all, and they got emails.
Okay.
So yeah, there's been a lot of miscommunication, and everybody has gotten somewhat defensive, and hopefully we can rectify that and come up with, I don't really know what solutions we need to come up with, because it seems like we're doing pretty well. So I'm a little confused as to why this all started to begin with, but
this is something we talked about in the board, something I suggested, this is really on the infancy. It really hasn't gone anywhere yet. We had slides of all these accomplishments that we had in all the committees. No one owns the fitness center. Do we have a committee that manages it? We don't. There's no one that looks at it. So right now it's cold, hard numbers that says, here's 1 + 2 + 3. That means we do X. It's very cold. In my personally, I'm going to be stepping out of line here with the board. This is not the board speaking. This is me personally from the board. I think it belongs under some umbrella that we have a committee that says, hey, yeah, we're gonna put 10 out there. Hey, we're going to increase dues, or we're going to decrease dues. Hey, we're short this year. We've got problems. How are we going to fix this next year? Right now, it's sitting flapping in the wind, for lack of a better term, of having a committee that says that has a task force. Maybe it goes to Parks and Recs. Maybe it goes to a brand new committee. Hopefully not that. We don't need another committee just for a small fitness center. It needs to have a home. And right now it has no home other than probably the instructors.
Okay, can I correct you a little bit?
Sure.
It has a home. It may not be where it needs to be long-term.
Right.
Dave, it's Dave's office has been
Right.
right or wrong with the feedback from the instructors. That's where the work's been done. One of the things that needs to be talked about is if you're going to plan for the future, do you want to put it under a committee?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, the watch out is if there's not enough work to be done, it'll get beat to death. So that's the one. I don't care which way we go. My only concern is I don't think we're built for the future. If you talk to the people and go talk to Bob Starks and Donna Yetzer, who were part of the building went up, they knew very early on that it probably wasn't going to be big enough for the long term. Is that correct, Donna? That conversation's been had years ago. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, well, my point of it not having a home, it doesn't have monthly meetings. It doesn't have, it could be a quarterly meeting. It doesn't have, it may not be that active, but to leave it to the staff upstairs, they are great. They have a lot of work to do already. Put them on the planning of the fitness center, I think is a burden that they should not have to take on.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Or it's sustaining itself, why is this even an issue? Why are we talking about this?
We
Can't we just leave it the way it
you
is?
still need to plan, even if you've got something coming in, you want to plan so that you can afford the next 60, right now it's 55,000. In
Yeah,
7 years, it might be
It's like,
70,000.
well, we're firing all the instructors. That's how it came across to me.
We just, yeah, I think we've already addressed that.
Yeah.
Donna, please.
I just wanted to say that
Donna, will you grab the mic, please?
I don't know if I was under the understanding that, I mean, we just put what, $50,000 or something into the fitness center. We don't have anything escrowed for the fitness center per se. So making money is a break-even point, as I think Eric pointed out, is not where we need to be. And classes, as I understood it, were negative. They were not making money. Well, I'm sorry. That's what I understood, is that negatives, I mean, that classes were not breaking even. I work with the finance, so I work with, so I don't know. I'm not here to argue it. You say it makes a profit. I've heard that, we need to build an escrow for fitness. We just spent $50,000 on something that wasn't escrow. What?
So
We're
here,
not looking for funds. We're not looking for funds.
let me explain how we got to this point. We researched this because we saw the need for the equipment to be changed. The instructors have told us that for years. The people working on the machines have told us that they need to be replaced. So that was our intent, put that out there. We went to the instructors. What do we need? What would you like to see? All those kinds of things. And we had some input. This is early on last year. And I can tell you, we tried to get the instructors together as a group. It's hard to do. They work different times. They work other jobs, I guess, all those kinds of things. So the intent at the beginning was, what do we have? What do we need? Where can we go from here? When we started researching, we found that a third of our budget was going to pay instructors for the fitness classes. And we found that they were not highly used. Now, the yoga classes are 2 classes that are very, very much attended. The other classes were not. We had one class where for at least 2 months, no one showed up. No, and the instructor, was here for a little bit and left after about 15 minutes. So what we looked at is what's the viability. So if I told you that a third of the budget went to pay for a new piece of equipment, every year we had to pay a third of the budget for a new piece of equipment, that out of, we have like 136 memberships, 365 members because of the family membership. If I told you that we had a piece of equipment that cost a third of your budget and a small number of people in that group were using that, would you say we should continue to purchase that piece of equipment every year? That was my logic. Okay, maybe I was looking at it the wrong way. I'll take the blame for that. I don't recall saying never to talk to your people in your classes. I do know that some instructors did, because I had people coming to me. So by the time I talked to you, those people had already talked to me, and I sat with them. I explained to them the situation we had. Am I right? Did I explain to you what the situation we had? Okay. So, and that's how I've presented it. The whole talk of going red or in the black, that's not part of what I'm thinking. That's not part of what went into this process. It comes out to, do we continue to pay the way that we've been doing and not putting back money for new equipment every year? I mean, if we're breaking even isn't going to do it. Laura told you, these floors aren't made for this. This building is not made for this. We took over part of our meeting room here for a weight room. If you go back there, it's underneath of the new flooring is this floor. The upstairs part it's not built for this. So you have to think long term, is how I come into this. How are we going to sustain this? I have no problem with if the decision is made to continue to pay instructors, and however we do it. I'm just advising. I'm trying to put this in a financial picture. That's for your benefit. You're the owners of this community, and I work for you. So, as I said, if I've done something wrong, I've had people come to me from these classes. I've had people yell at me, as I'm going by, and I said, come on in the office. I'll show you what I got. I have no problem showing you anything that I've got. But I would like for the angst to relax, put the pitchforks down, put the feathers and tar down, relax. We're listening, okay? And that's my point. We're listening. The board is listening. They've agreed to give this some more time, which is what Bonnie was asking for. And we'll try to get the numbers together a little better, a little more clear. I get the message. I need to do some work on that. Fair enough? Yes.
Is it possible to sort through which classes are not drawing a larger group?
Yes.
And eliminate some of those if they are not being attended? It would make sense to cancel those.
That could be, but I think it's a long-term process. We looked at it in a snapshot. You know, who's coming to the classes? How many people do we have? We have 2 classes there was never an issue with those. Now, let me tell you why we went to the thing. We didn't fire anybody, and we weren't firing anybody. We were offering an opportunity for the instructors. This comes from at least 2 instructors who have talked to me over the time I've been here, just generally, just casually, not with the light on them and not, you know, all the special optics. Just, hey, if I could get some members from outside the community, okay, just hear me out. That would help me to do my business here. It's a business thing. Thought there would be an opportunity there. We went to the finance committee and to the board with that part of the proposal so that these classes could continue to be operated. Hopefully they could build membership. Okay, we heard loud and clear. People don't want to do that. So that will not be offered as part of whatever we come up with here. I gave 2 months with the letter that I sent out to the membership. It came a little quicker than I thought I had intended, and maybe having some discussions, things like this. It's kind of like herding cats, you know, trying to get everybody together. And you're all here in a room. Thank you for coming. But to get people to get their honest input. What do you think? I mean, I'm presenting this, I presented it to the finance committee and to the board, trying to do my due diligence, because we were trying to show that we needed the new equipment, that this is the state of the business. So that's all we're trying to do. My office is always open, willing to talk anytime you want to. I had one instructor that said, I'm not interested, period. You know, if you're going to not pay me, I'm not going to be a part of that. So that's okay. You know, she gave me her answer. The other ones were a little more workable. 2 they're not necessarily happy with it, but you know, they're willing to give it a try. So I did talk to them all individually, tried to get their input, tried to open things up. Any other questions? I saw a hand go up.
We're gonna do one more question on the fitness center, because I think we got more going on in the world than just it.
Jenny Dutton,
So
1854.
bear with me a second. We're gonna take 5 minutes at the end for any other questions, so
This is
nobody
just
gets
a fast one.
shortchanged. All right?
Like if I take 3 fitness classes a week and I have to pay the instructor, let's say $5 per class,
Mhm.
that'll come out to like $60 a month. But if the people who take the classes fees are raised, let's say $5 a month, let's say, okay, you want to take the fitness classes, we're going to raise your fee. Not everybody, the people who want to take the fitness classes, would that be a possibility to cover their?
That's one of the options, but it's something we would want to bring back to you. We learned a lesson, you know, bring back to you. I have a little bit of time here, and these are some of the proposals. So I would want to hear those. You know, what would you propose with what you've just been presented? That leave the red, black, all that kind of thing out of it, because the long-term thing is it's not sustainable as it is. You have to be able to replace the equipment. You have to have good, solid equipment. It's commercial grade stuff. It's not something that you want to have, you know, okay, I got this extra weights in my basement, put it in here. That might have been a good way to start, but it's got to be commercial stuff, commercial grade stuff. The other thing, the space. This space is constantly, Laura runs into it every month. You know, you have a once a month that your class is canceled because they're doing the papers here. So that's hard to sustain, you know, so you understand if she has people that don't want to deal with that. Well, I never know, COVID really killed us, you know, you shut meetings down, and we had to start having meetings here that we would normally have in the boardroom because you know, we needed space. You had to have so much space between everybody and all that kind of thing. So I hear you. I'm listening. If you've got ideas, shoot them to me. You got a little bit of time, and you're the fitness committee. There you go, right here. Okay.
So can I just say something real quick? I know you only said one, but
Yeah. Like, seriously, can we end the fitness conversation?
yeah, but I just want to commend Dave because I think they have done a really good job with what I've seen so far as the flooring in the weight room and upstairs with the equipment. And I feel like a lot of us were feeling like for many years, we know that a profit was being made, and it really wasn't our fault that there wasn't any organization. And then all of a sudden we were being punished because we needed money for all this new equipment, which we needed. And then all of a sudden we were told, oh, well, we're going to cut all this because we need this new equipment. And so I think that's where a lot of it came from. So
quick segue. Check out the weight room here. Check out the upstairs if you haven't been in the fitness center for a while. The weights I don't think they're here yet, right?
They're not there
but
yet.
The floor is
nice.
So the flooring is a lot better than what we had in there, and we're trying to improve what we got.
All right, 5 minutes of
Okay.
overtime, rapid fire. Any other questions on the content tonight or anything? Let's go right here, and then you had a question too. You get to go second. Is that cool? All right, please.
On your slides.
Okay.
On the one side where you have 4 categories.
Okay.
You can't read them from back here.
Okay.
So if you could do, put all 4 up and then individual ones as you
Okay.
talk about it.
Good idea.
That, as you're reading through it, I was like trying to read.
Okay.
numbers and stuff.
Good. That's good. Thank you.
Julie Mason, lot 2224. I want to go back to the discussion about the rule changes.
Yes, everyone's favorite.
I don't need to see the slides. I just have just a quick question about that. You kind of talked about the process of reviewing and how they'll be massaged and changed. What is the final process? Is there a point where there's voting by the community? Does the community review that? Is it only done here? Is it only done in the community, in the committees? Just kind of see where we come in this
Okay.
process.
Actually, something to remember is we're not going to be sneaking anything in. We're working what is already with what is already there, which means it has likely come up through a committee, has had 2 readings, and has been voted to be accepted by the board. But what I would like to do as we get closer to the end, and hopefully it's before April, is to have a town hall to just show you what they are. We talked very briefly before coming down here, and to go through rule by rule and have 2 readings, I will be dead by the time that would be done. So we would look at sharing it with the community and then voting it in as a body of work rather than an individual rule. We're not putting anything in. We are taking things out.
Yeah, and the things being taken, I guess what I'm thinking is the things are being taken out. They're only being taken out because they're duplications or they're being moved to another place. Or are some just being removed like they won't be a rule anymore?
Well, now
Is
that I'll look to Tom. If you'll recall, Scott talked with him earlier about are what we have in place for architectural and property maintenance, are they going to be valid 20, 30 years down the road? That's something that his committee will look at. But if you look at anything outside of architecture and lakes, which are the huge sections of our bylaws, you will be looking at redundancies with state and local laws coming out, processes when applicable being removed. In other words, it's available on our website, but it's not in our rules any longer.
Julie, think about, like, we all know how difficult it is to keep up with them. And there's some issues that are addressed in 5 different parts of the bylaws.
Right.
And so it's just, it was obvious that you needed to get the bylaw down to something manageable to work with, both as a resident and for us
Agreed.
trying to lead, right? And then I think what you're gonna see after the cleanup and the shortening and making it usable is it being much easier to look at specific rules and say, okay, is this still appropriate? We're not gonna get all of it, but we have to get it manageable. I mean, if we took a survey of how many people have read all 165 pages, it'd probably be pretty low, right? And it's killing us. And that's why with judicial, with Mr. Paul, we made the quick change because we kept stepping on ourselves together on how we handled the process of citations. That was an easy fix. That didn't take a whole lot. So going through it, it's highlighting, but we could go through right now and probably find 15 or 20 areas that beyond this process are probably worthy of taking a look at.
Yeah, a lot of it's cleanup too. I did a search
Does that
when I was,
help?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see where this was going.
yeah, when I was working with future planning, I mean, SS&E, I did a search for the word dog, right? What was it, 120 times in our bylaws? You know, so that's scattered all over the place. You know, Pat mentioned moving assessments toward the end. You can look all through and look for the word assessment. It's scattered all over the place. So we can make that consistent. And like you said, we fixed the boat sticker issue. That just bit us where we don't like to get bitten. So.
One other quick
Yes.
question. I know last year we kind of saw some fee increases and things like that people felt very shocked about seeing. Is there anything like that in the plans for next year? Are we planning on seeing any kind of, just to clear the air on that?
No, we've communicated a couple times during the budget process, there are no amenity increases. And we communicated that we will be reviewing a proposed increase in July on dues. Based on the fact that we're gonna let the community consume, we're gonna fix, we're gonna do the work we do, we'll evaluate it in the spring and then determine is it appropriate to take one mid-year. But we're trying to give folks some relief after what we had to do last year.
Right. Julie, we're just like you. I think every month as you see things go up, you're flying by the seat of your pants in terms of how you're going to allocate the money you have every month. We're no different, but we're all property owners too. So our goal is to be as smart with the money we have as we can and only increase things when we really feel we have no alternative.
Any other questions? All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Favor? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah.